This video was originally recorded July 2019 at the home of Robert and Nena Thurman in Woodstock, New York.
Greetings, everyone. I am talking to you a few days before my birthday on August 3rd. I will be 78 years old, and I sort of don't really feel 78 years old, although how does anyone know what a year feels like? I'm still pretty happy, have a few extra aches and pains, but I'm doing okay. Actually, on my actual birthday this time, I will be in Minneapolis, and I will be in the process of being trained by Al Gore's team, which is a wonderful organization he founded called Climate Reality Project. And he does leadership training for people like myself who sign up to do 10 events per year. And some of them could be small things like writing letters to the editor in a local newspaper, or a larger opinion piece in one of the bigger national papers, or giving a lecture, or holding conversation with a group of people, or putting something online, a podcast, about the climate crisis that we currently face. And usually I have my birthday at home and people come, family and others, friends. We have a little bit of a party, not usually too big, except on the decades, 50, 60, and 70, and then we'll probably do 80. But normally we just have dinner, my wife and I, or whatever, and we do something modest. But this year I will be at this climate change thing, and I'm especially happy. I mean, I can do a few things for a few years at my age, I don't know how long I'll still be here. When you get to this age, you realize you could go at any time. Makes you kind of savor the moments. It's a good way of being here now, in the famous Baba Ramdas phrase. So you get like that, which we should be when we're younger, but we tend not to. But I'm particularly proud that at this event, I'm taking one godson and two grandchildren with me, and a couple of friends. And in the sense that I suggested to them, and then they got the idea, and then they personally applied, because you can't just take people with you, the way this Climate Reality Project training goes. They have to individually want to go, and they have to pledge to do the events that they're going to do. And so far, this project has trained 19,000 people around the world. And they are doing events, I guess, around the world, although one doesn't necessarily hear about it strongly enough. And so I want to do that myself. I'm just retired this year, finally, from university teaching, regular sort of semester teaching. And I still teach at Tibet House, and I give lectures around the country and around the world, but take people on trips too and give talks to them there. But I'm more free to sort of plan different things, different places. And among my different teachings and lecturings, I'm going to try to give a number of teachings a year on the climate based on the training I received from Al Gore's team. So I'm very, very pleased about that. And I recommend to anyone who is listening to this podcast, they might look up the Climate Reality Project .org and think about trying to sign up for that training themselves. I think you have to apply. They don't necessarily accept you. And you have to sort of say how you're connected to the environment and what you plan to do for it. And then they might accept you. And I would recommend anyone try and join that. It's like joining into the after ripples of The Inconvenient Truth, a movie that he made. And actually, I have a secret plan, even on top of that, a lot of them, plans. Somehow I get a lot of plans when I retire. I don't know why. But also, of course, I'm very, very obsessed about the coming election. And it isn't that much just personal about these rather unfit person for presidency, namely Donald Trump. It isn't that I'm that freaked out about him. In a way, I feel sympathetic to him, because I think he really didn't really plan on the pressure that you get when you're president. He occasionally shouts like, I'm doing great and I'm having such a great time and this and that. But he's not known to be very clear about what is fact and what is fiction. And I think actually he feels rather stressed, actually. He likes to play golf. He likes to hang out. He likes to make money. But I don't think he likes to work, really, at this level of intensity. And what he maybe hasn't even realized, I think, personally, because I do feel sympathetic to him, is that his transition team and a lot of his appointments were controlled by the libertarians who have kind of captured the Republican Party. You know, people think in the press even and in the opposition that the Republicans have captured or that he has captured the Republican Party and they don't dare talk back to him and so forth. But what they don't realize, it isn't quite like that, really. It isn't that the Republican Party feels captured by Mr. Trump, President Trump. What they feel captured by is by the libertarians who give them all the money that they're getting. And these libertarians, people maybe think also these libertarians are Republicans, but they're not. Libertarians don't want any government, you have to understand. Republicans, regular, real Republicans, they're a little right-wing and they're a little center-right or right-wing, and they like to govern according to their way of bias toward the wealthy and bias toward the sort of upper strata of society, which has become very upper now, and a little bit imbalanced so. But they do want to govern, on the other hand. So they'll make compromises. They'll negotiate with the center-left and the leftists, more democratic types, and they'll take some. They don't dare, for example, even Bush too. He didn't dare cancel Social Security, this kind of thing. So they want to govern. But actually, ever since Obama got in a way, they haven't governed. McConnell, the leader of the Senate, and Ryan, the leader of the House, they just said our whole thing is to oppose everything Obama does. So that's really not governing. They had a majority there after a while. And Obama had one which he squandered a little bit. He didn't do as much as he could have because he was kind of relaxing. He'd won the presidency. That always happened. Then he lost control of the Congress, and they just blocked everything. So, in fact, they didn't govern. What they introduced to cancel Obamacare over the 6 years, maybe 100 times or something, but that's not governing. They knew he would veto anything they would do. And so it was just the government was paralyzed, actually. And then, of course, they blamed it on him, and therefore they didn't lose the Senate, even though they did lose the House. People were fed up with that. And Trump, was elected by their voter suppression method. And people want government, really. They're confused sometimes, and they don't realize that's what they want. They may think they want freedom or something, but actually they want health care. They want, tax cuts. They want whatever government can give them. They want infrastructure built. They want job training. They want unemployment insurance, all things that they get from government and do not get from the libertarians, who have an Ayn Rand influenced belief that nobody should get any help from anybody, and people therefore have to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, and this makes them great and self-reliant and helpful and blah, blah. They have that kind of false idea, actually. Meanwhile, they make their money based on government inventions, infrastructure, defense, and lots of things, So they actually don't do without government, and they want socialism for the upper level. That's really what they like. So I don't blame Trump. So it's not personal, my concern for the coming election, where it's very essential, I think, that the libertarian-controlled, non-governing Republicans are ejected from the Senate. The House is maintained in the people who want to try to govern, and the White House is taken by someone who wants to govern, and a cabinet that wants to govern and wants to do the right thing for the people, and doesn't think of office as a way of enriching themselves personally, right? You don't get paid that well working for the government, and so they know that, and that leads to corruption, actually. So they should raise their salaries even, once they're really governing, They should eject anyone from House and Senate and state legislatures who had signed the no tax pledge of Grover Norquist, because that's, again, that is making it where they don't take their oath of office seriously, because they won't raise taxes to keep the government serving the people. And so that's a fake populist libertarian thing. No, just strangle the government. In the bathtub, even said Grover Norquist, the leader of that, who pretends he's doing it to help the people, but actually is to prevent libertarians from having to pay taxes. Is what it's really about. And people who take that pledge then cannot take their oath of office in a good conscience. They're breaking their oath of office before they take it, by saying, I'll never raise taxes to preserve the good credit of the government. And they have massively increased the deficit lately with their tax cut and with their wars. They added 9 trillion since Bush 2 to the deficit. And then the bank crash and the bank bailouts and so on. It's really incredible what they've done as far as wrecking the good credit of the government of the United States. Somehow, by piling on more debt, this is not showing up yet in a major global economic restructuring, but we're threatened with that. And the loss of the dollar as the measure of solvency in the world, we're very much threatened with that by their bad misgovernance. So I'm very anxious that we recover the great democratic experiment, which is the U.S. Constitution and the government that it outlines, and that has enabled the U.S. to invent many things, to win world wars, to even be corrupted by people who don't understand the U.S., to be more imperial than it should bother to be. And all of these things I'm very concerned about. And but on the other hand, it's not a democratic Republican thing. If the real Republicans, if they really wanted to govern, they couldn't avoid looking at the facts, and the facts would tell them, which the oil company scientists even know, that human beings' economic behavior, industrial behavior is wrecking the climate. And this wrecked climate is causing major catastrophes to human beings and other animals and the whole ecosystem. And it's really like an alien invader, the cloud of carbon and methane and stuff that's in the atmosphere, even though we put it there, but has become like an alien from outer space attacking life on Earth. And so no government on the planet, Russian, Syrian, Iraqi, Saudi, Chinese, American, no government on this planet that is actually governing and helping its citizens has any sort of enemy in any opposing government that is anything like the enemy of climate crisis, of the climate collapse that is hovering around the planet. That is by far the biggest enemy of all the governments and all the people in the world. So I have my bright money plan, which is sort of being done by people in small scale here and there, but it's never been totaled into a thing called bright money to counter the dark money. And none of the realistic billionaires yet have given billions to take up the planet Earth and life on Earth as their candidate, not the Democrats and not the Republicans, and made it not just in the US, but in Europe, in Russia, in India, in China, it should be impossible for people to either accept a dictator autocrat or vote for a politician who is in denial about the greatest danger that humanity and life on Earth faces, which is the climate collapse. Greta Thunberg, the wonderful young Swedish woman, 16-year-old woman who is protesting her government's continued, petroleum-dominated lifestyle. She's not happy with the word climate change, and I agree with her. I've not liked it. I don't like global warming. It's global overheating, and it's climate crisis. And even she likes the word climate collapse, which I'm not sure I agree with her there, because if people think it's already collapsed, then they think there's no fixing it, then they become despaired and they just carry on business as usual. And whereas climate crisis means you can act in a crisis and you can avert the worst outcome of the crisis. So I almost prefer climate crisis. Anyway, it might be my last election, or I might die before the election. I am almost 80. But this election has to go to the climate activists. I don't care if a Republican candidate emerged who was totally like Jay Inslee, who's not at all the leading Democratic one, but he's one of them, who is a climate crisis activist and an executive and the governor of Washington State, and has done the right thing in Washington State at the moment. If a Republican emerged like that, I would definitely vote for him rather than any of the nice people who say they're going to help with healthcare and do things, but are not addressing as primary thing the climate. Because climate is not the long-term thing. It's an immediate thing, and it is as anybody who's had their roof torn off by a tornado, or themselves killed, or their relatives killed by a flood, drowned in a flood, their house destroyed. Anybody who says that knows that it's immediate. People on islands in the Pacific that are being flooded and they're having to leave their country, they know that it's immediate. People in Syria who had this terrible attempt at a revolution and then a complete catastrophe, like a genocide by their own government, who had 6 years of the most horrible drought in their history, they know that climate crisis is immediate. People in Madras, or Chennai as it's now called, in South India, the whole city has run out of water and they have to truck in water from far away, they know that it's immediate. It's not some frog that's in hot water and doesn't know it's boiling, like all the things that people say. Like, it's not going to hit you in your life. It's going to hit everybody in everybody's life. And, the guy who was studying the team that was studying the glacial melt in Greenland in 2009 gave a 50-year worst case level of melt. And they came back in 2014 for a second serious measurement. And they discovered that the 50-year worst case analysis had been more than reached in 5 years. It had gone past in 5 years. So it's not far down the line, this crisis, this collapse. It's happening. And it's immediate. And, you can go to college and have a scholarship, and you can make some money, and you can get a good job. You can do a lot of things. And then you'll be a climate refugee from California when the mega fires start burning down Los Angeles and Santa Barbara, like they did begin to, but they're just getting started. If this goes on, not only not diminishing the petroleum carbon pollution, petroleum, coal, gas, carbon pollution, but increasing the intensity of pushing it in there, which the climate deniers are doing. So I know this is birthday. This is happy birthday. But, this is what I hope you will do for my birthday. This is the present. If anybody cares and wants to make a present, this is the present. Read all the Gore books, Inconvenient Truth. Read all the Bill McKibben books. Read whatever sci-fi you can read about what the planet looks like under serious climate change in the future. And pay attention to the young people, and pay attention to the groups that are really trying to do something about it. You can search them on the net and then get involved and be activist about it and bring it to the fore. Write letters to the Democratic National Committee, to the Republican National Committee, and write letters to the heads of oil companies and gas companies and coal companies, and send emails and Twitter and make it go viral on Reddit and everything. And just really, really go for it in every direction that you can. And connect to the other people. And think of it as part of the Bright Money plan. Because that's what I want for my birthday. I want to see Bright Money begin to compete and to successfully win the battle with dark money. The dark money, the color of black oil, the color of dark oil. Bright money, the color of light. Okay?
This video was brought to you in part through the generous support of the Tibet House US membership community and viewers like you. To learn more about the benefits of Tibet House membership, please visit tibethouse.us. Thanks for watching. Tashi Delek.